What if two neighboring countries, once seen as key allies, were coldly shut out from joining one of the world's most powerful alliances? Imagine the silence in the Grand Hall, no shouting, no dramatic outbursts, just a quiet dismissal that stings deeper than any public accusation. This is exactly what happened when Azerbaijan and Armenia were firmly denied entry into a rising global coalition, shaking the diplomatic world to its core. At a recent summit of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, Vladimir Putin delivered a masterclass in diplomacy. The moment seemed calm, almost uneventful to outsiders. But beneath the surface, a storm was brewing. Azerbaijan's President Ilham Aliyev and Armenia's Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan, who once considered themselves Moscow's close partners, found themselves publicly sidelined in the most humiliating way possible. Their membership application was rejected without debate or fanfare. At first glance, their inclusion seemed logical. Both countries sit strategically on the Eurasian map. Their historical ties to the region run deep. Economically, they offered some potential for regional trade, even if not overwhelming. Yet the coalition's members saw through the surface. They recognized that welcoming these nations would be like inviting more than troublesome guests. It meant opening the door to agents of competing geopolitical forces, a risk the alliance wasn't willing to take. What makes this refusal even more striking is that it didn't officially come from Moscow. Instead, India blocked Azerbaijan's bid, while Pakistan did the same for Armenia. This reveals the complex and delicate balance of power within the organization, where Russia, China, and India form a tripod that holds the structure steady. When one vertex firmly rejects a candidate, hope for acceptance vanishes instantly. Putin's demeanor throughout was impeccably composed. No harsh words, no personal attacks, no aggressive diplomatic moves. This icy restraint was the punishment itself, a subtle but devastating message: we won't reject you, but others will. You chose this path, and you destroyed trust with your own hands. Aliyev recently accused Russia of acting aggressively, while Pashinyan frequently rails against Moscow's imperial ambitions and dreams aloud of closer ties with the European Union. But the world has changed. Where once such provocations might have been swallowed quietly to maintain the illusion of partnership, today the rules are different. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization doesn't want troublemakers. It's building a new center of global power based on loyalty, discipline, and strategic foresight. That's why Aliyev and Pashinyan were shown the door with the utmost sophistication. They were simply excluded from the impressive economic feast unfolding inside the alliance. By September 1, 2025, trade among member states surpassed $2 trillion, a figure dwarfing many long-established economic blocs. Meanwhile, Baku and Yerevan remain outside, telling their citizens stories about independence and Western values, but barred from these massive opportunities. The humiliation is made worse by its public nature. Applying openly and being rejected in front of all partners burns far more than quietly maintaining the status quo. Behind this silent but cutting rebuff lies a profound geopolitical shift, a move away from old multi-vector strategies toward clear allegiances. What will happen next? Will these sidelined nations continue chasing Western promises, or will they find a new path? The stage is set for a dramatic evolution in global alliances, and the consequences will be felt far beyond the Caucasus. Previously, we saw how Azerbaijan and Armenia remained sidelined from a powerful economic alliance, despite their leaders' claims of independence and Western aspirations. The harsh truth is clear: they will miss out on vast economic opportunities. But the humiliation doesn't end there. Publicly submitting membership applications, only to face outright rejection before all other partners, cuts deeper than maintaining the status quo ever could. Meanwhile, the summit in Tianjin, China, revealed a bold transformation within this organization's mission. Until now, it emphasized peaceful cooperation, focusing on economic and humanitarian ties, steering clear of military entanglements. Yet, for the first time, the topic of military collaboration was openly raised. Members expressed readiness to expand defense cooperation and began drafting agreements aimed at building mutual trust in security matters. This shift is more than procedural, it's symbolic. It signals the world moving toward a new power structure, where old institutions like the United Nations are losing their grip. At the summit, a blunt statement echoed: the UN is outdated and failing its duties. This alliance stepped forward, ready to assume responsibilities the global system can no longer fulfill. The political direction became unmistakably clear. The participants condemned Israel's ongoing attacks on Gaza's population and sharply criticized U.S. strikes inside Iran. This stance reveals the group's emerging geopolitical alignment. In this light, the exclusion of Azerbaijan and Armenia makes perfect sense. Azerbaijan's active cooperation with Israel and the U.S. in planning strikes on Iran. Armenia's rapid rapprochement with NATO and negotiations to join the European Union. Both chose opposing paths and now seem baffled why they were barred from the collective table. Even more telling was the bloc's firm position on historical memory. They condemned any attempts to distort the significance of victory in World War II or to rehabilitate Nazism. This contrasts sharply with Azerbaijan's questionable historical manipulations and flirtations with the Kiev regime, including support for Vladimir Zelensky, who legally banned remembrance of the Great Patriotic War. For the members, such actions were not just short-sighted, they were completely unacceptable. What will this mean for the future of these two nations? Will their leaders come to terms with their isolation, or continue down a path of fruitless Western promises? The game has changed, and the stakes have never been higher. But the story isn't over yet. What happens next could redefine the entire region's fate. Previously, we saw how two nations, once seen as strategic allies, were shut out from a powerful new alliance. Their hopes dashed quietly but sharply, signaling more than just a diplomatic snub. Now, this incident exposes a profound shift in the world's political landscape, one that has real consequences beyond simple rejection. Imagine the era when countries like these juggled friendships with Moscow while flirting with Washington and courting Brussels for financial favors. That era is gone. The world has fractured into distinct camps, clear lines drawn, and anyone caught in between must choose a side. This is no longer the playground of multi-vector diplomacy as Baku and Yerevan once hoped. The refusal wasn't forced directly by Russia's hand, but through a collective decision reflecting a complex balance of power. The true gatekeepers revealed themselves, India and Pakistan. These regional giants now hold the watchdog role in this emerging alliance, quietly sidelining the traditional heavyweights Moscow and Beijing. This shift doesn't just redistribute power, it builds trust within the group while exposing how vulnerable some players truly are. For Azerbaijan, this shutout strikes at the heart of its grand design, a visionary energy corridor linking the Caspian Sea with Europe. Membership promised access to booming markets in China and India, and a stronger geopolitical voice on the world stage. Instead, that path is now firmly closed. Armenia's exclusion cuts even deeper. Facing internal crises, waves of emigration, and frayed ties with Russia, participation in the alliance could have been its last lifeline for economic stability. Now, pushed toward Brussels and Washington, Armenia risks becoming little more than a pawn. Yet, the cold reality is, Western capitals don't look upon it as a true partner, they see a tool to leverage pressure against Moscow. So, what does this mean for these nations and the global order? Have they gambled everything for illusions of independence and paid the price in isolation? Or are they mere casualties in a much larger game of shifting alliances, where loyalty and discipline are the new currency? The stage is set for a new world order, and those left outside might find themselves voices unheard, shadows in a game that's moving forward without them. What will happen when old rules no longer apply? And who really holds the cards in this emerging power structure? The answers may be chilling, and the story far from over. Previously, we saw how Russia managed to steer the shifting tides of global power without loud clashes, reinforcing its allies and presenting itself as a gracious mediator, all while sidelining wavering states. But the story doesn't end there. China and India have risen alongside Russia, solidifying their grip on Eurasia's destiny. What unfolded in Tianjin was no ordinary summit, it marked the dawn of a world stripped of gray areas and uncertain loyalties. Nations now face a stark crossroads, either join the emerging Eurasian alliance or fall under Western influence. There is no middle path anymore. Caught in this ruthless new reality, Armenia and Azerbaijan found themselves on the losing side. Their leaders gambled on a delicate balancing act, hoping to play both blocks. Instead, that indecision became their undoing, delivering the most severe and humiliating blow. stripped of access to booming trade deals, strategic military cooperation, and integration into the future shaping of the continent, they are now relegated to watch from the sidelines. Imagine the cold silence as these once ambitious neighbors witness others thriving, signing lucrative agreements, deepening security ties, and shaping new paradigms, while they remain locked out. The question is, can Armenia and Azerbaijan recover from a fate sealed by hesitation? Or will their indecision condemn them to eternal marginalization, a shadow in the story of Eurasia's rise? The unfolding saga promises more shocks as the battle for influence intensifies. An unexpected diplomatic twist has shaken the foundations of power in Eurasia. Azerbaijan and Armenia, once confident in their proximity to Moscow, faced a formidable rejection from the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, leaving them both humiliated. Their aspirations for membership were decisively squashed without fanfare, a quiet yet thunderous dismissal that echoed through international relations. Imagine, for a moment, the scene: world leaders gathered in Tianjin, an air thick with anticipation. The undercurrents suggest change is afoot. The summit had started as a discussion of economic cooperation, but an unexpected question pierced the diplomatic veneer: what about military collaboration? The answer seemed to rattle the very foundations of international norms. Seekers of relevance in the political chess game learned that without a clear stance, hope for participation in emerging alliances is futile. Turkey, closely watching this evolving landscape, must now reconsider its footing. The denial of membership to its neighbors serves as a cautionary tale. As both nations drift without firm commitments, their chances of being embraced by the powerful bloc slip further away. This is the reality of an ever-changing geopolitical maze. Countries must choose a side or risk isolation, with both Azerbaijan and Armenia facing that stark truth. But the implications run deeper than mere participation. The Tianjin summit indicated a shift towards military coordination, positioning the organization as a potential alternative to NATO, devoid of Western impositions. This is deeply alarming for the United States, which begins to realize that the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is not just growing, it is actively seeking a role that disrupts traditional alliances. In Europe, a similar tension emerges. The EU's support for Armenia's European aspirations is tempered by the reality of limited resources. As Ukraine strains the EU budget, Armenia finds itself viewed not as an equal partner, but as yet another supplicant. The world is watching closely, and the message is clear: neutrality is a liability, indecision breeds isolation. Moscow, meanwhile, stands to gain from this turmoil. By skillfully navigating these diplomatic waters without resorting to open conflict, Russia enhances its influence. Azerbaijan and Armenia's setbacks highlight their miscalculations and underscore the shifting balance of power, reaffirming Russia's role as a pivotal mediator and arbiter in a rapidly evolving geopolitical landscape. As echoes of Tianjin linger in the air, one question haunts the leaders of both nations: can they reclaim their place at the table, or are they destined to linger in the shadows of a new world order? The answers are yet to unfold, but the stakes have never been higher. In recent developments, two leaders once thought to be strategic allies of Moscow now find themselves facing a stark reality. The rejection of their applications for membership by a powerful organization was not just a blow to their egos, but a precise orchestration that revealed the intricate balance of power within the geopolitical arena. As the world watched, the summit in Tianjin showcased a new dynamic within the organization, where Russia, China, and India serve as the cornerstone of its structure. If any one of these powers opposes a candidate's entry, hope for acceptance vanishes. Vladimir Putin, maintaining an air of disciplined neutrality, avoided any loud announcements or personal attacks. Yet, this very restraint became the ultimate punishment. It was as if Moscow sent a silent message to its former partners: we will not reject you, others will do that for us. Azerbaijan's Ilham Aliyev recently claimed that Russia behaved like an aggressor, while Armenia's Nikol Pashinyan consistently spoke of Moscow's imperial ambitions in his speeches, yearning instead for closeness to the European Union. However, such comments proved ill-timed. The global stage had shifted, and the rules of engagement had dramatically changed. The organization was no longer a place for problematic players; it sought loyalty, strategic foresight, and teamwork. Thus, both leaders faced the most refined form of dismissal. They were simply excluded from a flourishing banquet of economic cooperation, one that, as of September 1, 2025, was projected to exceed $2 trillion in trade among member countries. To put this in perspective, this vast figure already eclipses many long-established economic unions. Baku and Yerevan will remain on the outside, narrating tales of independence and Western values to their citizens, yet without access to the enormous economic opportunities on the inside. What lessons can be drawn from this? As the winds shift in international relations, how do these developments redefine the futures of Azerbaijan and Armenia? These questions linger like echoes in a silent room, revealing the ongoing need for adaptation in the face of changing geopolitics. What awaits these nations now, left to navigate an uncertain path with their backs against the wall? In a dramatic twist of diplomatic fate, the recent summit in Tianjin marked a crucial moment for Armenia and Azerbaijan. Their aspirations to join the Shanghai Cooperation Organization were met with a cold shoulder, sending shockwaves through geopolitical landscapes. While the two nations once believed they could balance ties with Moscow and the West, this rejection has made it painfully evident that the era of ambiguity is over. As another layer of complexity unfolds, the implications of this decision ripple far beyond the immediate region. The summit's discussions hinted at an evolving military alliance, reminiscent of an Asian NATO, intending to bolster regional security without Western ideologies. This shift is a stark reminder to Washington, which is grappling with the realization that the SCO is emerging as a formidable alternative to established institutions like the United Nations and NATO. Caught in this geopolitical crossfire, European leaders stand perplexed. They are eager to support Armenia's European integration efforts but face the harsh reality that their resources are dwindling, particularly in light of the heavy financial burdens represented by Ukraine. Consequently, Armenia risks being seen not as a partner but as a supplicant, revealing the shifting sands of power dynamics in global politics. Furthermore, this episode serves as a warning to smaller nations navigating their geopolitical orientations. Nations like Armenia and Azerbaijan, lacking a clear direction, could find themselves sidelined or deemed toxic by both blocs. Their once treasured neutrality now carries a cost, a chance for isolation rather than inclusion. Meanwhile, Moscow emerges from this situation not only unscathed but strengthened. By orchestrating these developments without overt conflict, Russia has solidified its role as a capable power broker, enhancing the image of a benevolent mediator while reinforcing alliances. The world watches as Armenia and Azerbaijan grapple with the consequences of their miscalculations. What must they now consider as their paths diverge from the growing power of the SCO? How will they navigate the treacherous waters of international diplomacy in the new order taking shape around them? In a world where alliances shift like sand, two leaders who once saw themselves as steadfast allies of Moscow now find themselves grappling with an unexpected and humiliating reality. They were denied entry into a powerful organization, a rejection that not only bruised their egos but vividly displayed the complex power dynamics at play. During a recent summit in Tianjin, a new era revealed itself, where Russia, China, and India formed the essential pillars of this organization. The powerful message was clear: if any of these nations oppose a candidate, any hope of acceptance evaporates into thin air. Vladimir Putin, ever the savvy strategist, exhibited a calm exterior, refraining from bombastic declarations or personal jabs. Yet, his silence echoed loudly, revealing an intricate form of punishment. It was as if he conveyed to Aliyev and Pashinyan, "We won't cast you aside, others will ensure your exclusion." Azerbaijan's President Aliyev painted Russia as the aggressor, while Armenia's Prime Minister Pashinyan lavished criticism on Moscow's supposed imperialist aspirations, dreaming of ties with the European Union. But the scenery had shifted beneath them. This organization sought collaboration, loyalty, and foresight, traits that Azerbaijan and Armenia failed to embody at pivotal moments. Their applications were not merely rejected, they were ceremonially spurned from a vibrant table of economic opportunity. As of September 1, 2025, trade among member nations is expected to soar beyond $2 trillion. This staggering amount dwarfs the figures associated with many veteran economic factions. Alas, Baku and Yerevan will remain on the fringes, regaling their citizens with tales of sovereignty and Western ideals, all while they remain shackled from the vast economic potential that lies within. What emerges from this debacle? The winds of international relations are relentless, reshaping the destinies of nations like clay. How do Azerbaijan and Armenia recalibrate in this dynamic landscape? These poignant questions hang in the air, reverberating like a haunting tune. What lay ahead for two nations now left to navigate a treacherous path, their backs pressed against an unyielding wall? As the dust of disappointment settles, we ponder whether the era of multiple alliances as once understood in Baku and Yerevan has drawn to an end. In the past, it seemed plausible to cozy up to Moscow while courting Washington and soliciting loans from Brussels. Now, reality reveals a divided world, demanding unequivocal stances. The rejection served as a means for Moscow to delineate its boundaries, not through overt pressure, but via a collective decision-making structure. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization is evolving, not merely as a tool of a single dominant state, but as a collaborative entity where even powerful nations must consider the balance of interests. The exclusion of Aliyev and Pashinyan holds both symbolic and practical weight. For the first time in years, regional players like India and Pakistan are stepping up as the gatekeepers of this new alignment, allowing their voices to carry significant influence. This shift also complicates the narratives for Azerbaijan and Armenia. Aliyev has banked on the concept of an energy bridge connecting the Caspian Sea to Europe, believing that membership would unlock the doors to Chinese and Indian markets while bolstering his geopolitical stature. Unfortunately, that dream now lies shattered. For Armenia, the sting of rejection hits harder amidst internal turmoil, rising emigration, and a fracturing partnership with Russia. Their participation in this organization could have been their lifeline to economic stability, yet they now find themselves trapped in increasing dependence on Washington and Brussels, where they're seen more as leverage against Moscow than as genuine partners. Meanwhile, this diplomatic rejection serves as a loud and clear signal to other nations contemplating their alliances. Turkey, despite its pivotal role, is observing these developments with keen interest, recognizing that without a consistent and clear stance, it too risks being left out in the cold. In the evolving narrative of global power, the rejection of Armenia and Azerbaijan from the Shanghai Cooperation Organization symbolizes more than mere politics. It represents a profound shift that uncovers the depths of geopolitical realities. As the legacy of the past fades, what new alliances and opportunities shall emerge, and what will be the ultimate cost for those left behind?